Just a few years ago, Clayton Echard was living a very different life than he lives today.
Will you accept this rose?
In 2022, Clayton was the lead star on one of the most watched reality TV shows of all time, The Bachelor. But now he has settled down out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he's an up-and-coming real estate agent, a mental health advocate, and a very, very successful Airbnb host.
If it matters enough for a guest to bring it up, then it matters. Tell you one of my biggest secrets.
In today's episode, we're going to spend some time with Clayton and get to know more about his fascinating story.
Because I had my back against the wall. I was down to my final 10,000 in my bank account.
What it was like transitioning from show business to the real estate business.
Cease and desist by ABC within 24 hours.
And how he was able to convert what was once just kind of your run-of-the-mill ranch style home in Scottsdale and turn it into one of the most loved homes on Airbnb. So whenever you left the show, like, what was it that made you choose Scottsdale of all places? Because you weren't originally from here.
Family. My two brothers moved out here 2 years prior to me, so I wanted to be close to them, especially coming off the show. I needed that support system around me. I was dealing with a lot of criticism. So I was just like, hey, I love my brothers, and they moved here, and I visited once and fell in love with it.
Was it tough to transition from reality TV back to more of like a normal, traditional life out here?
Yeah, it would have been tough anywhere. I mean, to be honest with you, I've never returned to a normal life, at least not what once was. I don't have privacy anymore. But what I will say that I do appreciate about Scottsdale is there's a lot of athletes and celebrities that come here, and so people around here are used to it. So I don't really get hounded or stopped but if I was in a small town, yeah, people would be running up and snapping photos because they don't see celebrities as often. Actually, this was an Airbnb prior to me buying it, but I saw obviously some upside, which was the backyard was completely unfinished.
Okay.
But really with the interior, I bought it furnished. The only thing I changed was the couch. So this is my couch that I bought for myself, but I knew that it would be very much appreciated in here. I know comfort's a big thing for people. This is a Restoration Hardware couch. People told me I was stupid to put this in here.
Clayton's house sleeps 10 people, which is a bit less than the average home that you see around Scottsdale, but he wanted to set the home and spaces up to be comfortable for his guests and not try to cram as many people in here as possible just to make a few extra bucks. What inspired you to be an Airbnb host, like when you came back into town and the show was over?
I think I mean $350,000 in my bank. I'd sold my condo in Missouri. And so I came out to Arizona, and I just, had people saying, look, like, your money's sitting in your bank account's not making you any money whatsoever. You should do something with it. And so, my first thought was I should buy a house. But at the time, thankfully with influencing from reality television, I worked a deal with an apartment complex for rent reduction. So I was basically living in an apartment complex where I was doing a trade service. I was creating content for them, and they were basically dropping my rent. So I was living very, very cheaply, and I thought, okay, well, as long as I have this deal, I'm going to stay here. The plan was to basically rent it out until that deal fell through, and then I would basically take over the house. But then what ended up happening was this Airbnb has done so well, it's a top 1% in Scottsdale, that I'm never going to move into it. I don't have that deal any longer with the apartment complex. This home pays for the mortgage here, still brings me extra income where it's paying for my living in the apartment complex. So I live basically for free. And because of that, I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep this thing going.
Clayton saw the value in this home when he first laid eyes on it. The previous owners of this house almost completely rebuilt the place, adding square footage, changing the look from the street, and raising the ceilings throughout, which makes it feel a lot more spacious than your average 1960s home.
The previous owners told me they did $60,000 in gross revenue with just a turf backyard. Wow. So, we can walk out here.
Yeah, let's check out the backyard. This is a nice door, so this stacks.
Yes, yeah, it'll
push
back, which is nice.
Yeah.
Again, I like that it just gives you that natural light that comes in, but this was obviously the big project that I took on here. So it was just turf prior. And so I realized there was a big upside of opportunity here where I had done a little bit of research online. I'm not like some crazy analytical person, but I saw that if you added a pool, it could almost double your income. Yeah. And I'd say it's probably 1.5 times it. Took it on. Had a great contractor that was able to knock this all out once we got permits in under 3.5 weeks. So
Oh,
he got it
wow.
up and running because I had my back against the wall. I was down to my final 10,000 in my bank account, and I'm like, if this doesn't rent, I'm gonna have to turn around and sell this, or
Oh my
or
God.
move into it was my
Yeah.
backup option.
Yeah.
But he had knocked it out, got it ready in time for like the back half of February. So I was able to get that back half of February, March, April, May, the high season here in Scottsdale.
That's perfect timing. So
Yeah.
you added the pool, all this coping, the hot tub, that gazebo, and then obviously all the furniture, the pavers.
Yes.
Had you ever done anything like this before? Had you taken on like any type of a renovation project?
No, never. Truthfully, like I just told the contractor I want a pool, I want a spa. I think I want some seating area that's covered.
Yeah.
But I gave him freedom. He said, colors and such. I'm like, dude, just make it look good. It's way
Yeah.
too much for me to like start nitpicking on. Gave him creative freedom. Really, most people that are selling their Airbnbs, they're selling them because they're not profitable enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's why they're getting rid of them. So there were Airbnbs that I could have bought that were all ready to go that were required no renovation, but I figured, well, there's a reason why you're selling this.
Yep.
So when this house came up, I saw it as, I'm like, wow, that backyard is completely untapped. It's going to require a six-figure investment, but if I do it, based on the research, I should be able to double my revenue. And this home already has been profitable without the backyard done. So, I was like, this is enough. I'm comfortable taking on this amount of, renovation. To do like a full tear down, there's no way I would have ever jumped into that.
For anyone who's watching who doesn't realize this, you're right. Like there are dozens of homes all around Scottsdale at any given time that you look at that listing and you're like, that was so obviously an Airbnb that probably failed, which is why they're selling a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But you instead looked at this one and you're like, okay, I can see a way to boost the revenue by adding the features that this house doesn't have. So it was like really strategic, actually. Clayton is utilizing all of the automation tools that professional Airbnb hosts use, which allows him to automate a lot of the responsibilities, including things like scheduling cleaners, running pool heat, and even sending the check-in instructions to all of his guests.
With automation on pricing, that's huge. I started off with Airbnb's pricing tool and I had almost 100% capacity booked. When I first started, I was like, that's awesome. My home's always getting booked. And then I realized I was leaving a lot of money on the table because you don't actually want 100% book capacity. That means you're way too cheap. Right. The sweet spot's around 70 to 75%. That means that you're adequately priced, but you're also going to maximize your return. When I had Airbnb's pricing tool last year in 2024 in March, I did about $12,000 in bookings. You're like, oh, that sounds pretty decent. Well, when I switched over to Price Labs, which is a $20 a month service, I ended up doing $19,500 this last March. So you're talking about a $7,000 swing for paying 20 bucks more a month. And now I'm right around that 70 to 75% sweet spot. And I don't have to touch the rates. My house at the cheapest in the summertime when it's 100 plus degrees here, so most people don't want to travel here, there's less visitors, will go for $150 a night. I don't let it go any lower than that. But 150 at the lowest, up to $990 a night in the high season in March.
Is there any like odd appliances or anything that popped out at you like, whoa, I can't believe a lot of guests are asking for this?
Truthfully, I think it's just having, a stocked kitchen. So, having, the spices and such. I mean, this is big for people, right? Like they want to come in here and be able to, cook a meal. So having all of the silverware, all of the different bowls and such. And then of course, like I see that most Airbnbs have coffee at all times.
Yeah.
So I've added in a couple coffee machines. They're going to make store runs, but they're probably not going to be thinking like, I need this and this spice.
On the coffee front, it was interesting to me. Initially, I set mine up all just with Keurigs because to me, I was like, that's what most people want. But
Yeah.
I found several guests who I guess are like worried all about the microplastics nowadays. And so once enough guests requested for the drip coffee maker, I was like, okay, they're like 40 bucks or whatever. I'm going to buy a drip coffee maker for all the listings because enough guests are asking for those.
And again, 40, 50 bucks, that return, it makes all the difference. How I got the house, all signs told me not to buy the house. I found myself in a false accusation. She's now been indicted on 7 felony charges, so that's great. But that comes right out the gate as I'm about to buy a house. So now I gotta get a lawyer, so, and I now have over $100,000 in legal fees. So I was about to buy this house and I get hit with this lawsuit. But then with that, as I'm buying this house, 2 days before close of escrow, I get a call from the manager of the lending company telling me we cannot fund this home. I don't know why, but the loan officer lied to you. You can't put down 10%. you're gonna have to put down way more. I said, how much more? They said 35%. I said,
what?
I can't do that. And he said, well, then you're gonna have to back out. I said, well, I'm gonna lose my earnest money. I had talked to another loan company beforehand, a lender, and I was like, wait, they told me I could put down 25%, and I could do that. But in order for me to get to 25%, I had to sell off 6 figures in my stocks. The agent said, look, your earnest money's gone, and if you're gonna want us to continue this deal, we'll give you 2 more weeks to close on the house, and you gotta double up your earnest money. So now I'm $16,000 of non-refundable earnest money. I talked to the lender, they're like, yeah, 25% down, we can do it, and we can close in 2 weeks. And I said, I'll do it, I got it, I trust it, I'm gonna trust the process. They did, they knocked it out in time. But I had all these things going against me. And I think that bit of stubbornness and that ego that was like, I will do this no matter what, and this isn't the first time I faced adversity, that's what you need. I'll show you one of my biggest secrets, and I shouldn't give this away because I'm like, this is like what separates my Airbnb, and I've probably gotten a good 7 or 8 bookings a year off of this little addition alone. It's the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
So the Nintendo 64, nowadays, I think it cost me $400 to buy the whole system. But like that's a huge value add, especially when I get guests. I mean, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, families that have kids. I've had people probably like last year, 8 or 10 people bring up, I love the fact that you have a Nintendo 64. It's what made me want to rent the house out. So I'm giving away one of my biggest secrets, but like you gotta have that competitive advantage, right? Like what's the thing that's gonna separate me from the other 10 houses that I'm competing against? Yeah. And this is something where I'm like, I don't see Nintendo 64s in people's homes, the Airbnbs, they're focused on the pool and the spa and the putting green, but like these are the little things that like you add in that really go, okay, I like that. That's, this house has everything the other house has, but it has a Nintendo 64.
What else have you done to maintain that 5-star rating? Because that's crazy impressive. Yeah. And I'm sure you don't want to give away all your secrets, but like, what are some things you've done to make this experience better for guests?
So for me, I think the biggest thing is cleanliness, and so I'm anal about it. I come in here and I check. In order to maintain that 5-star experience, I property manage. I come in here after cleans and I look, and if I catch crumbs or if I catch one hair laying on the in the bathroom, people go, oh, it's one hair. I'm like, no, that one hair might be the difference between a 5 and a 4-star. So providing a clean home is the first way. Checking in with the guest just enough to touch base. You don't want to be micromanaging and hovering over the guest. You want to give them that autonomy and freedom to live in a house and feel like I don't have someone watching me, right? I actually am on this Phoenix Airbnb Facebook page. They're always chiming in about, hey, I have an issue with the guest and this, and hey, do you guys, allow your guests to control the thermostat? I don't. I keep it locked at 72, and I'm like, quit micromanaging. Okay, so you're gonna save $50 by holding it at 72 versus 67 for their stay, and guess what? They write you a 4-star review, you're gonna likely lose $1,000 in bookings minimum. The house is again maximized for heads and beds, and so you got 2 beds here, you got another one over here.
So at some point, do you know if the previous owner, did they add square footage to this house? Because it feels a little bigger than your average house in Scottsdale.
I believe, yeah, they definitely did. I know they knocked down everything besides one wall. And they kept it up for permitting purposes. I guess you're able to cut a couple steps out of waiting but they took it and then they basically, I know they added on that kitchen, so they pushed it back that way. I believe they added another maybe 400 square foot. I think it was a 1,500, 1,400 square foot home prior. And something, again, not really my doing, but I'm grateful for it. They bought all the furniture thinking they were going to live here, so it was quality. These are all Tempur-Pedic mattresses.
Oh, nice. So yeah, see, that's another thing that a lot of hosts skimp on, is they'll go with the cheap mattresses, which guests notice that. They go to the Ritz-Carlton, they're staying in a nice bed, like guaranteed. What would you consider the biggest challenge to being an Airbnb host?
Early on for me, it was to just not be emotionally invested in the house. So at the end of the day, this is a revenue generating home. So there is going to be broken items, there's going to be repairs that are going to be needed. This house is going to have, just paint that's worn down or scratches. And at the end of the day, if I'm in the positive, then all of the rest of this stuff can be fixed and I don't need to be invested. I just have to have the right people to be able to fix stuff in time. I used to have like the motion sensor activated. And what happened one day was I had 10 or 12 motion sensor notifications over the course of like 10 minutes. And so I'm sitting at my house and I'm like, what's going on? And so I click in and I just turn on the camera to see what's happening. I see 10 cars all along the driveway, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're having a party. They're going to destroy my house. So that night I went to bed stressing, being like, my house is getting destroyed as I'm going to sleep right now. Like they're throwing this massive banger. And the next day, you know, they check out and I come in here expecting to see just it completely destroyed. And I'd never seen it cleaner. They were so respectful. And at that point I realized, I was like, Clayton, out of sight, out of mind.
So how about this? This is a Bachelor related question, but it relates because you're an agent now. So I think I saw something like a year ago or so that the Bachelor house was actually for sale or sold. You've lived there and now you're an agent. So what do you think about the Bachelor house?
There's a sense of nostalgia. I went back and walked through it, and I had all these emotions come flying back in, and you know, it felt like a separate home. There was a part of me that I was like, I'm always going to be rooted here. As far as from an aesthetic and the house, I didn't think it was impressive at all. I honestly felt like they could have gotten a better home, but it became so iconic. They used it for so many years.
I have to talk about when you first bought this house. I know your initial plan was to set it up more as like a Bachelor experience, but that totally blew up and backfired. So what happened there?
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is where I think everything always ends up working out the way that it's supposed to. Coming off The Bachelor, I had this really great idea with Scottsdale being the #2 bachelorette spot in the country. So I thought, man, I got a massive opportunity here. I am going to rent out a house, and for an upcharge, I will show up in a suit and basically do a rose ceremony. And so I was like, this is incredible. I'm going to make this the best Airbnb ever. And it's the competitive advantage that no other Airbnb in town can compete with. I get my suit, I recruit like 5 of my girlfriends, and I'm like, I need you to dress up in a dress, and I need you to come show up on this day at this time, and we're going to do a mock rose ceremony. On the show, there was this ice sculpture like at a really pivotal point on The Bachelor. And so I was like, I have to have that ice sculpture. So I ended up paying like $1,500 for this ice sculpture. Get it shipped in the night of. It's like dripping. They bring it in here, and I'm like, all right, I got what I need. I get all the roses. I film it. I put it out there. Cease and desist by ABC within 24 hours. And I kind of knew it was going to come, but I knew that if I asked if I could do it, they would say no. So I was like, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. It ended up working out really great because I was only going to charge like $300 for people to bring me here. And well, if that would have happened, people would have been booking me potentially every weekend. And then I would have never been able to leave Scottsdale because I would have always been confined to like having to show up for an appearance. So I actually worked out all very well. I thought I had this really great idea that was going to basically separate my home from the rest.
And they're like, nope.
ABC just came swift. And I was like, I'm not going to go out legally up against ABC. I'll lose that all day.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of seems like a lot of people who come from the show, like bachelors and bachelorettes, they choose the path of like influencer more than anything else, where like they really make an effort to get the brand deals and do the influencer life, whereas it seems like you chose a bit more of a traditional path with like the Airbnb, the real estate license, the podcast. So what made you choose to go that direction versus just like the classic influencer route?
To be honest with you, I respect those that are influencers, but it just felt vain to put all the focus on me. And so I thought, okay, hey, how do I leverage this opportunity? But also I want to have some sense of privacy back. So if I was a full-time influencer, I'd be capturing everything that I do. I want to still have a bit of privacy. So I thought, how can I still make money but not be as present in front of the camera and throwing my life out there? So that's why I found the mix.
Okay, so what's next for you then? Like, I'm curious, are you looking to build up the agent business, buy more Airbnbs? Are you ever considering getting back into reality TV?
Yeah, I can't say too much right now, but I do have another reality TV show. I've got a potential documentary. And then real estate I'm building. Things are picking up. Longer you're in the industry, the more referrals you get, more business. I would love to have more Airbnbs. To be honest with you, I'm just trying to put my foot on the gas pedal even more. So just ramp everything up across the board. And eventually I'll slow it down once I have a significant other. But for now, I'm single, so it's full go for me.
Awesome, man. Well, you're killing it, and I love to see it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.